Hey everybody, I'm John Jennings with Royer Labs, and this is our Friday happy hour, and I am here with my good friend Richard Chycki, great audio engineer, great recording engineer, and we've been talking for the last 15 minutes here. I just feel like keeping on going, man. But it is happy hour. If you've got a brew, or in your case, Richard, a cup of wine, join us.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on, John.
Thanks for joining us. I'm so glad you could be here. Let me give you all a background on Richard, just a little bit, in case you just aren't aware of some of his credits. I mean, he's got so many. I'm just going to do a quick hit list here. But Richard did a ton of the Rush records. Jeff Healey. I met him when he was doing some Aerosmith records. Just Push Play back in 1999. Def Leppard, Mick Jagger, Alice Cooper, Our Lady Peace. A number of the Dream Theater records, which are astonishing sounding. Little pun there, yeah. But because the last he did a record, The Astonishing, which was just amazing, like a concept record. And so Richard was one of the first people to put up R121s on guitar cabs back in the days when it was still terrifying to do that. You know, it's a ribbon, it can do it. But I think at that point, first time you got your hands on him, you were at the record plant, or were you at Joe Perry's studio? Anyway, you were doing the record Just Push Play, which came out in 2000 or so, and it was huge.
Yeah, it was a big record. We had a Royer Mike, the assistant at Joe's studio, had opened up this box and said, "Yeah, you ever heard of these mics?" It's like, no. He's like, "It's a ribbon, but apparently it won't blow up." And I went, "Oh, let's try and blow it up." So that's
what everybody said back then.
Yeah, exactly. It was completely unknown. You know, I mean, the qualities of ribbon mics are well known, especially for you want to put them on loud sources, but you know, there's that issue with the with the ribbon stretching out and failing.
Yeah,
and absolutely. So what we ended up doing is Joe, for that record, for Just Push Play, was using a Gibson GA30 combo. It's 30 watt combo, not incredibly loud, just really great toneful sounding amplifier. And we wanted to capture that sort of the body, the body of the amplifier. And it's an open back. It was an open back combo. So, we were dealing with, we needed to preserve all of the bottom end, that we could. And so we ended up putting a 121, literally a 121 straight on, and just rotated it slightly for sort of maximum hiss, I guess, so maximum transfer coming from the speaker. And it ended up being at an angle, not exactly on axis with the speaker.
So was it like vertical, like straight up vertical?
Yeah, we had a vertical, but slightly turned, correct. And so I guess, the air would deflect off the ribbon as opposed to hitting it spot on. Mm-hmm. But the tone, it was incredible. It literally was turn it up and go. So, this is, for an engineer, there's that process of working to get the tone. And in this case, it was, just turn it up and go. So as much as, and I can say that because this is so long ago, but it's just having the right tools and having something that works so well, it made my life as an engineer so easy, right? And then, once you have that experience, that initial experience where there's that sound and it's consistent, we had, the first thing we did is put the mic on the cabinets. The second thing I did is tell the assistant, get me more of these. Right. So we started.
You say the assistant, was that at Joe's studio or was that
at well, that was the first experience we had was
okay, cool.
At Joe's home studios. But, like I was saying before we went live, Joe's, the home studio brings that vision of having, a little 8-channel Mackie and little Porta studio recorder. But in Joe's case, it was a full 80s series Neve, and we had huge Pro Tools rig and Fairchilds and mics, and Joe has every guitar on the planet and every amp on the planet. So it was really it's a top end studio that happens to be at his house.
Wow.
Right. So.
Wow. Was it like a basement thing, or was it off the a wing
basement
of the house
thing.
or something?
No, it was a basement thing. He had, his house was built in modules, basically. I guess the house started as a fairly small, fairly modest studio home, and then they started building. They're going to build this on and build another quadrant, and then they entertain, multi-car garage with entertainment area over top, and
wow.
And then there was another area off to the back where it was almost like a raised bungalow, but then below that was the studio. So you would come in and you'd take a few steps down, and you were in this. I mean, you didn't know that you were in a basement. Wasn't it didn't feel that way. It was a full-fledged facility, well-tuned, sounded amazing.
Yeah, the home recording studios of some of the great players then were just amazing. I remember going into Slash's house once, and you go into the house, and then you walk down these stairs, and you're in a full-fledged, really nice recording studio, and he's down there with his Marshall dimed on in a 412, and you couldn't hear anything upstairs. And Jack Douglas was down there working with him, and a couple of Jim Mitchell and some other engineers were there, and it's like this is a home studio, huh? Home studios now have really come a long way. There's much better gear to work with at home, and and smaller, and some of it's really decent. But back then, like you're talking about, home studio was an 8-channel Mackie mixer and whatever else you might have.
There was a track that we used I think it was a Supro, and he wanted to record it in a bathroom upstairs in the house. And he wanted to record it in the bathroom, to run cabling to the mic from the, it was such a long run. It was hundreds of feet because just the way the logistics of going up the stairs. And so Joe said, "Yeah, I'm going to get my guy to come in, and he'll cut a hole and run a conduit. He'll just put a conduit, because I'm going to be doing this in the future." And it was incredible when I came in. Like, I guess they had done it over the weekend, and we came in on Monday, and the guy had it was almost like a core. It was like a guy that had drilled. When they look for oil and they do core samples in.
Yeah.
It was this thing about, I don't know how thick. It was like, it was just like layers of insulation and like. But I couldn't believe how much stuff was between the studio and the living space. Then they had a conduit, and we just ended up running cabling. Cabling was then, I don't know, about 20 feet, but it was unbelievable.
Yeah, such a difference. 20 feet.
Yeah, the construction quality was devastatingly amazing.
Wow,
yeah,
that's great. Do you remember which song? Did you end up using that guitar? Did you end up using that track? Or?
Yes, I recall us using it, but I can't remember the song. I mean, this is all starting to become a bit of a blur.
Well,
it was a few records ago.
In the summer of 1999.
Yeah,
a long time back.
Yeah. And so since, we ended up using, Royer Mics ended up using it for horns. I did some stuff with Mick Jagger, and we went to the UK, and we used we recorded at Metropolis, the power plant, I think it was called, Metropolis, and we recorded horns, and it was again, it's just 121, because it didn't fail, it didn't explode. When you have a sax player, horn player, guys, and they're pretty close. I have a tendency to mic fairly close. So
what was the technique there? What did you do? Do you remember how you had the setup? Were you close to the bell? Were you
close to the bell? Not. There's more distance than what I would do, say, for a guitar cabinet. Probably about 12 to 16 inches back, and a little more angled, right? Because if you get for me, what I found, if I get too close, in particular, say on a sax, I didn't find that it was really a tone issue. But if I get too close, where say I'm tracking and a compressor is going to be grabbing it, to pull it back a bit, then you end up getting all of the key, all
right.
the finger motions and stuff, which, I mean, some of it's okay, but at a point becomes, instead of it sounding real, it starts to sound distracting. So, there was so much sound pressure level anyway that, you can afford to get 12 or even 18 inches back.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's good to know. And then obviously it's really different on electric guitar. You can record at some distance, but you're talking when you talked about that initial miking of Joe's cabinet, how close were you to the speaker, to the grill cloth?
3 inches.
Really?
Yeah, really close.
And where did you put it? Was it like right in front of the dome or a little?
No, I have a tendency to go from the, a lot of the times these speakers that I end up using are Celestions, right? So we've got the 2 or 2.25 inch dust cap. I'm probably, I don't know, maybe a third of the way from the dust cap to the rippled edge of the speaker, right? And then we started, I mean, that's a starting, that's generally my starting point. And it comes to, we start to play with, depends on how dark the guitar is. Obviously, if we're using a Telecaster, I might move it a little bit further toward the edge of the speaker.
Where it's really,
I have a tendency to use microphones. I have a tendency to use microphones almost like EQ, where I'll in say the case of John from Dream Theater, that I use a 121 really for the mid range. I'll use a Mojave 301 Fat, and I use that a lot for the bottom end. And then I've got a third mic that sits like dead center, and that's really like the rees and the presence and the buzz that the amp has. And I blend those to get the guitar tone, as opposed to just jamming in a single mic and then maybe EQing it and playing with it. I try to do less of that and do more with the microphones.
Speaking of this, we did a video right after you did that amazing record, The Astonishing, with Dream Theater, and you gave us a photo or a couple photos of your mic setup on the speaker, and let's play some of that. We can hear some of the music, and you can see the actual setup, see exactly how, and then we can talk a bit about your technique there. And
remind me about the guitar condom. Remind me, don't forget. Let's discuss the guitar condom, because it's very important.
Definitely. Okay.
Right. Get back to me.
Back to you on that. So let's see. Let's go. Now let me stop a share here. Start one more time. All right.
Royer 121s on guitar, in tandem with the Mojave 301, is the core of John Petrucci's guitar sound for The Astonishing. Literally could not be an easier task to get great guitar sounds. Sort of the well-renowned, the 121 method of drop it in, find the sweet spot, give it a bit of a twist till it sounds great. And that method works. Never fought it. It's tried and true.
Well, we can let this guy keep talking, or we can. Oh, he's you.
Yeah.
Go back to the source.
A little more facial hair there. It looks like I discovered a razor or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The demon point. But wow, what a guitar sound, man!
As much as I would love to say, you know what, the guitar, it's the player. It just listening to him, like I forget everything. He's just so amazing.
Yeah,
He's such an amazing player.
he's incredible. He's so melodic, and his tone is just to die for. But you're capturing all of that stuff. You hear you're hearing everything.
The air, the magic, the stuff. It's all the stuff that that when we exclusively we try and say, well, this plugin is going to do that, or this is going to do that, and there's something elusive that's missing. There's that little bit of, and if I could bottle it, it'd be score. But having said that, that's the thing is in that original video, I said something about tried and true and don't fight it. And that is something that is extremely valuable to take when you have tools that work, when you brought up that video, there was a few things in there, if you don't mind me pointing out. First off,
Sure.
When you look at all the mics, there's attention paid to everything being in phase, the distance from the speaker to the mics, everything is very cohesive. So we're not making creating a situation, say with phase, where we're fighting things, where all of a sudden it's like sounds flangy or comb filtery. So literally we can use the mics to advantage to say we're just going to blend them.
So once you get that set up and your phase is correct, then you can just blend the taste and you don't have issues.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
And what happens if you don't have that? If one mic's out of phase, is everything, are all bets off? Or
well, I have I had a young assistant. I had a young assistant who we put these really we put earbuds in his ears, and then we put on these aircraft sound. They're not headphones because there's no drivers in them, but they would just mute and bring the sound level down, and I would be able to talk to him. And he went into the guitar area, and he would be moving it around very slowly. I mean, now there's tools to, there's all sorts of mechanized things that you can use to do this, but I prefer to use young, innocent guys that want to be
Right.
up and coming engineers.
It's like cruelty, like a prerequisite to be an engineer. You got to bring somebody around.
Pretty much. But
okay.
You know what? It's not. It's the process of learning. To look and to move around and look for a sweet spot. We got to find it, right? So, I would be in contact with him, and he would be moving, and it's like stop. Right. And so then we would mark where everything is, and he was moving things laterally only. So we wouldn't be moving. It really is a matter of physics, where we want the sound to hit all the capsules at the same time. So the distance. So if you look at, say, the 301, which has the metal screening, and the capsule is within the screening, right? So it's the cases are at a slightly different distance, but the actual where the transducer is, where that is, right, is the same distance away. And
gotcha. So like the actual physical ribbon element, and then the capsule and the Mojave,
100%
dead on the same spot.
100% same distance away from the speakers, so that we're not dealing with any freaky issues, and we can just use the positive attributes of each microphone.
Nice. And I really like the way you've talked about this before. And a lot of mic blending, it's a 121 predominantly, and a 57 or a 421 or something like that. And in this case, you're leaning equally, it sounds like, on the Mojave and the 121. And so people know the Mojave Audio is a sister company to Royer. Dave Royer designed all these condenser mics too. And Mojave mics are really fine. And that 301 has taken a pretty predominant place in John's sound, it sounds like.
Totally. And that's been since 2013, I think it is, that we've been using this combination. I'm not working on the current record, but I am aware that the microphone combination has stood the test of time, so to speak, because it's the 301. The thing about the 301 is that the transients from the 301 coupled with the bottom end, it really lends itself to aggressive guitar sound. I'm sure it's great for other stuff, but in the context of what we were just listening to. And, you know, when you put the 121's legendary for the mid-range, for that feeling of forwardness, right? So we're, you know, and dealing with guitar, when we first started working on the Dream Theater record prior to The Astonishing, they, you know, John was talking about, he wanted his guitar to sound like chocolate cake, right? And that, you know, when you think about it, you need to, he's the producer, right? And it's like the cake plug-in. But, you know, it's like, well, how do you translate that? It's really, well, I want that forwardness. I want that depth. I want this. And there's all of these things put together. And that translates into using a couple of different tools to achieve all the things that he's saying, right?
Yeah.
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 I think we did it.
Tools.
I think we did it.
Did you ask me? Oh, what do you mean you think? That's an amazing sound. That's just beautiful. You had asked me to ask you about the guitar condom.
Okay.
The guitar condom.
So the pictures that you saw, the pictures that you saw, once we had worked out where all the microphones were going, at the studio, we were recording the guitars at a studio called Cove City in Long Island.
You talking about these pictures?
All I see is yes, exactly. So these pictures, excuse me, surrounding these pictures, like there are bales of insulation called Roxol. It is threaded rock. And what we did is, it's used in homes, and it's very dense. It's very dense, and it's a great sound absorber. Most studios have tons of Roxol in the walls. And what we ended up doing is we put bales of Roxol all the way around John's guitar system, including on top. And so we called it the guitar condom, because what this did is it contained the guitar sound, and it completely isolated the guitar from the room that we were recording in. In other words, so if we were to compress the guitar, that when the compressor would grab, that's how we would get that transient for John when he would do any sort of, you know, tight picking. So you have the tight transient. But when the compressor would release, typically if we're in a reverberant room, you would hear the room sort of lurch at you. So you'd hear, and you would hear, in a room that's reverberant.
Okay.
In this case, with absolutely no reverberation, you would get the transient, but you wouldn't get this release of the room because there's no room to release. So the compressor would release with silence.
Wow, that makes me, I'm going to have to listen to this again and again and again and just
so
hear
if you're listening
with that in mind.
To the track that you were just listening to, he's doing, so when you listen to that, his rhythm is so tight, but there's no mud from the room doing to this release that ends up making the sound murky. So there's a clarity to it, and that's because we've removed any of the reverb that would be that could be like a byproduct of or an artifact from the mixing process, from compressing it.
Very cool. So this isn't specifically ribbon related; it's more microphone technique overall related and guitar capture. But that is so important that. And obviously ribbon is a big part of the overall tone here. Why don't we just listen to that one more time with that in mind?
Sure.
Just the guitar. Here we go.
Renowned the 121 method of drop it in, find the sweet spot, give it a bit of a twist till it sounds great. And that method works. Never fought it. It's tried and true.
So you can see there the Royer. You can see the 121 is turned slightly clockwise. Not a whole lot, but you could see it. There was one of the angles it showed. You could see it's turned.
Yeah. It's not dead on, but just slightly.
Correct.
maybe to match sort of like the just where the speaker is actually physically positioned. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So cool. I'm gonna be checking this. I'm gonna actually be calling you again after this. Not right afterward. I'll give you a break, but like, hey, that's what we're talking about. Really appreciate that. We have a question from a Hilltop Frog Studios. Looks like Eights. Cool. He was wondering if we had any suggestions for using ribbons outside on location. Have you been outside on location with these? Is that your thing at all? Or I've got some thoughts on that, but
more my use of ribbon microphones has been either on live stage or in studio. So for me to go outdoors, I think that would be something that as a manufacturer, I mean, I can speak to the resilience of the microphone, but I would pass it on to you for the use in outside situations.
cool. I'll tell you a little about that. I've been on a lot of gigs, outdoor gigs where ribbons were used. I've set up mics personally on Santana's amp and some drum overheads on different things, and I got to work with Wayne Shorter and the great drummer Brian Blade, and set up who was just using a pair of 122s on overheads and one out in the front and a 121 on the kick. It was fantastic to listen to that and know, well, he's just using our mics because he's such a great musician. But the consideration with outside recording is wind, because with ribbon mics, even Royers, they're really tough. They can take a real wallop in front, because I know John Petrucci is loud and that ribbon's sitting right there on the grill cloth, and Joe Perry's loud and the ribbon's sitting there. But that doesn't compete with wind. Wind is a lot tougher. Wind is like throwing 150 dB at some really low, bass signal. The 121 will take 160 dB at a kilohertz, and I think 135 or 140 at 40 hertz. But wind is tougher. So wind is the enemy, and if you're using it outside, you want to have a wind filter on it. Interestingly, these socks that come with 121s, like here's a 121, this is the mic sock it comes in. You can leave the mic sock on there and use that outside, and it's
Are you kidding me?
Just leave it on, man. You can't.
I've been using them all these years, and you tell me this now?
Yeah. Sorry, didn't get around to telling you that one. But it's a great wind filter. It's a better pop filter than like the foam filters, because you don't really hear any attenuation.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a Carrie Underwood gig where they were using an SF-24 on an outside gig in Hollywood behind like a movie set for something that was going on. Kind of a windy day, and they called me about that. And I said, guys, let me just come down. I want to hang with you. And we put the SF-24's wind sock over it, or microphone sock over it, and it was fine. You really couldn't hear any real difference. And the way I found out about that was a guy emailing me years ago and saying, hey, I just want to let you know that after a session one day, I put the sock on the 121, and the next day we went and started again and recorded all day. And then I realized I had the sock on. And he's like, I thought I messed the track up, but then I listened back and there was just no real difference. So,
wow.
We started trying it outside and tried blowing wind at it. It's like, it works really well for that. So
what you're saying is that it will help you break wind.
Oh, we're guys. We have to go there.
Sorry.
I know. So now there's another thing too, and that's the 121 is, it's kind of an iconic guitar mic, but the R10, this is actually a prototype. Notice it. Well, it does say R10 on it, but it's one of the early prototypes. Nice. The R10 is like a $500 ribbon mic, but it's all of a Royer, hand built at Royer, and it really sounds good. And it's a great live mic, and it has a 3-layer windscreen system that helps block a lot of wind, so it can be outside in a windy environment, and it's basically okay. It's got a shock mounted transducer. The last Foo Fighters tour, Richard, you'll appreciate this. This was the only mic on Dave Grohl's cabinet.
There you go.
And then the second guitarist, the only mic on his cabinet. And a lot of times you want to blend another mic to pull up some highs a little, get a little bit more high end energy going, because the ribbon's capturing a very natural tone, but sometimes you want more aggression than what you've even got there. You want to really bring some high end energy into it. And they just open up the highs a little bit with EQ because they didn't want to deal with a couple mics on a guitar cabinet live. One gets kicked in a stand or something, anything moves, and now your phase relationship's wrong and things don't sound right.
But there's no rules, John. You know what? The first time that I'd used the 121s, which was with Joe Perry, that's all we ended up using was the 121. So, and it was fine because it was a good combination of guitar and speaker and amp. It just worked. And with with John Petrucci, I mean, a lot different player, a lot different sound, and the
totally different.
And the surgical approach to having to fine tune the guitar tone is everything is 100% different. So really, it comes down to that, that we have the right tools as an engineer. We've got the right tools for the job. And you know what? And sometimes we might need, one nail and hammer, and sometimes we need three different hammers and three different nails or what have you, right? But we need to, but we have that at our disposal, whether we need one or three, right?
Well, I got to do a quick segue here because you did that microphone hammer thing, and some people will tell you, and some companies just said, hey, with a good dynamic mic, you can hammer nails with it. Well, cool. I mean, dynamics are meant to take a beating like that. You can drop them on stage, drop the mic, you're not going to kill it, and that is great. But I was teaching a Ribbons 101 class, and the late great, love him so much, Bruce Swedien, got on a call with us and was talking, and this guy, a younger guy, said, "Look, what I like about dynamic mics is you can pound nails with them." And Bruce said, "Wait, kid, wait." He's got this big deep voice. He goes, "Listen to me. You listening?" We say, "Yeah." He goes, "Microphones aren't made to pound nails; they're made to pound grooves." Like, Bruce, boom! It's just fantastic.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
he's amazing, man.
Yeah, amazing. And one other quick aside about Bruce, there was no compression anywhere on Billie Jean.
Wow.
There wasn't a compressor. He said he might have had a touch on Michael's vocal, but in the recording there wasn't a compressor.
I did a panel with him at Sweetwater. I did a panel with him at Sweetwater, and unbelievable. Such a magnanimous gentleman. Given all of his success, and it was incredible because I was on one side was Bruce, and on the other side was the late Ed Cherney. It was just like on either side of me, it was just like,
And you're talking like father and son there. Ed used to jump a bus when he was a kid. He went out of his way. He'd take a bus to get to another bus so he could be on the bus with Bruce Swedien going into the studio.
Right?
Totally. Just to sit with him and hang.
Totally. A lot of audio power there. A lot of audio quality power. You had mentioned something before about the SF-24, and one of the things that as I had gained more experience with Royer mics, I ended up using the SF-24 was the main ended up being our main microphone for Jordan Rudis's piano for the Astonishing, and a lot for the previous record we had used. I can't remember what the synth was, but we had used a synth for. I think it was Ivory software synth for the previous record, but for the Astonishing, it was important that we used all organic instruments, and we ended up using for piano. We used the SF-24 and then a pair of mics near the hammers and those were recorded separately in case we needed to add for additional
Like
transients
attack or something. Yeah.
Right, the transients, but it was just one of those things of, well, let's just record that in case, because, you know, while we're recording, our job is to capture,
Yeah.
right? So we need to have those options. But it was the SF-24, and then I think we used like either 121s or 122s for the Leslie cabinet.
Mm.
We had a 147 Leslie, so we used the 120. I think it was 121s to capture the Leslie.
Wow.
And then
I didn't know that.
SF-24s. Yeah.
Oh, you
There you
didn't. I
go.
didn't tell you about the mic sock. You didn't tell me about that. So here we go. We're even.
Yeah, now we're even.
Yeah. But I didn't know. I'm going to have to listen back to that because man,
Yeah.
everything on that record sounded so
Natural.
full and beautiful.
Natural. The piano
Powerful.
SF-24 is and the SF-24 is also the main room sound for drums for that album.
You know, I always wonder if we have pictures of the drums in that video. I'm just going to take a quick look. Do we? We've got a picture that I think has something to do with the drums here. I'll go over here so I'm not just sitting here playing with my computer and nobody can see what's going on. But
we just think you might be drinking that Foster's there. It just might be nursing it or something.
This is Australian for beer. It's in this pod. So we're back to this. Can you see that?
I can see that.
Okay, what I'm looking at here is, oh yeah, here we go. Here's your drum setup. Here, let's
Used a 24V for the
There you
room.
go.
There you go.
Right there. So
Yeah.
let me explain, if I can explain that.
Yeah,
So
please.
if you look on either side of the kit, look further back, like on either side of the kit, you could see some Royers that are up in the air.
Like there?
Yes, correct. Those are the
here.
wide drum sound. Those are the wide drum sound mics for the room. Now, right in front of us is a friend of mine, Ross Hogarth, who is a good Royer friend. I'm aware.
Yeah, he was with us yesterday.
Correct, and he had told me about what we call I think he calls this the W pattern. So what this does is we get the left and right. There's
So
a Blum. Right, that's a Blum line right there set up. Right,
right. So you're going left this way and kind of right this. No, left
Correct.
this way and right this way. Whichever.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And then we fill in the center with the upper mic.
This one here.
Correct. So it basically creates you have a center node, you have a left, right, and a center node in the audio. So you can adjust sort of the thrust of the mono information. You can adjust with the top mic, and then you could control the width of the overall drum spectrum with the 24V.
How much of the overall drum sound did that turn out to be? Was that?
Well, it ends up being that it was prevalent for the ambience of the drum kit overall. But it's like any other situation. Mixing something like this, that when you listen to the drums on their own, there's a certain perception of size. Excuse me. And then once you add in, say, Petrucci's guitar sounds and the layers of orchestration, because we had live orchestra, synths, so lots and lots of layers. So the width of the drum kit is going to be, our perception is going to change relative to the amount of information that's being fed to us.
Right.
So when we listen, we might be listening to the kit and we go, oh, wow, it's really dry and very forward sounding. And then all of a sudden you'll hear a drum fill by itself and you go, oh, wow, that's really ambient and roomy sounding, but it was always ambient and roomy sounding. It's just, it's not being masked by all the other elements from within the mix. Mm-hmm. So, that's just one of those things that it was changing relative to how busy the tracks were.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm glad we had this here. That was part of that video. If anybody wants to see this video in its entirety and hear more, it's up on our YouTube page. Just look for Richard Chycki on using Royer ribbons. I think there's another shot of those
there you go.
Close up.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll let that roll through a little bit.
From the from the 24V, but then there's the figure 8 that's added in the center. So it's a very, very strong mono image coupled with the very, very wide Blumline image.
He's basically saying the same thing you were.
Wow, I know what that guy's saying.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, pretty great. And the sound of that is just unbelievable. Those drums were, everything on that record sounded so good. I mean, that was,
Well, thank you.
If you're out there listening to this, the record, The Astonishing, was a concept record, and all the way through it, it was just unbelievable. What a great sounding record. I've had a number of listens through, and you just sit back and get lost in it. It sounds so good.
Well, I appreciate that. It's definitely, when John was producing the record, one of the things that he had related to me was that, progressive music is about being progressive, and progressive is change. So, I appreciated the fact that he was wanting to try different things and present his band, and basically reincarnate his band in all of these different forms and different, the record before was a very song-based record, and the Astonishing was completely 180 degrees about. It was completely thematic. So it's really interesting that he would be able to take his band and just keep reinventing it. And
Yeah.
I mean, they've been doing this now for, I don't know, 30, 35 years.
Yeah,
It's
it's
about
still
30, and they're still going
relevant.
strong.
All going strong and sounding so good.
It's amazing.
So taking a sort of a complete shift. Oh, quick question here. Someone has asked, kick drum placements. I don't think you're really using ribbons on kicks yourself.
Well, I have been known to use, as far as a close kick drum placement, no. So have I used there? I don't think you have it. There is a photo that I sent you of me recording Neil Pearce drums, and there's a picture that I had sent of a Royer that's very close to the ground, and I don't know how many feet out, maybe 6 feet out.
Okay.
And it's very, very low to the ground to pick up the air, the low end air, because I have a tendency to use the same approach to, say, capturing a kick drum as I use on guitar, that I will use a condenser, dynamic, and then a ribbon, and I'll use those for 3 different purposes. I'll use the condenser mic for the transient.
Yeah.
I'll use the dynamic for that. I'll use it in this case for that forwardness that we need, because it's a close place microphone. And then further back, I would end up using the ribbon to capture the weight and the air from the kick drum, because
cool.
When you have that initial hit, it's the drum vibrates and shakes, and capturing that is what gives you that sort of that feeling of being there, and that it's sort of that enveloping, satisfying feeling that you get from when somebody's hitting things.
Yeah, right. Well put. I'll tell you a quick kick drum thing. If you take a ribbon, if you take a 121, even though it's a pretty tough ribbon, let's say you've got it this close to the kick drum, that's a big wave, man, and it's a big low wave, and it's a ton of energy, and that ribbon will take a number of those hits. But each time you hit it, it's stretching backward and coming back to place, and stretching backward, coming back into position, stretching backward. It could last, a while like that, but eventually, and it won't take long, you're going to stretch the ribbon out where you've got to get it replaced. But if you do this, you do 45 degrees. Now think about this too. If you've got it on a kick drum, you're going to get some snare leakage and some cymbals and whatever else. Do this, go 45 degrees, 10 inches or so, 8-10 inches. Now what happens is that sound wave, instead of going poosh this way, it's going poosh, it's rippling that ribbon.
Sure.
And it can sit there for years like that.
Uh-huh.
And it sounds the same as this. This and this sound the same, except ribbons have figure 8 patterns, so you're dead on the sides, but you're also dead on the top and bottom. So let's say this is the kick drum. Here's your kit. Put this ribbon like this. It's a good sounding kick drum mic. You're still going to want something inside for your click and your other things but you also isolate you pull your cymbals and your snare drum completely out. It's like you threw a blanket over the kick drum.
That's amazing. So further to what you're saying, taking the head of that microphone and having it at the angle that you're saying, and then pointing it exactly at the snare drum means you're putting your snare drum exactly in the node of that microphone.
Or at least right at the same angle. If the snare's over,
yes,
a little over here, but the mic's like at the same angle, any sound hitting it at that angle, it's just gone.
Perfect.
A ribbon is basically, it's deaf, like here and here and also at the top and bottom. So I've seen people put mics in kind of funny positions on instruments, but it's to control bleed. It's to get rid of things you don't want getting into there.
100%.
One more question that I wanted to, Richard, we just blew past our 45 minutes. It's like,
wow,
I can't believe it. We could go for another hour so easily. But let me just ask one other question that came through here, because we've covered a number of things people have asked. Do you have a favorite near field monitor?
Favorite near field monitor? Right now I'm using Genelec 8351s, and I still have my old. I use old ancient pair of KRK E8s, and those are my combination. The Genelecs I use for my surround and Atmos work, and I still use the KRKs just because I know them so well. And what I found is I have the Genelecs dialed in so much that when I switch between the two, I don't detect any shift in image where, say, the guitars or the vocal lurch forward or back. There's no change. So there's that consistency there that I appreciate. But that's one of the things that I think is really critical, that you really need to know your listening environment, which the environment being the room, the speakers that you're in, everything that's around you, so that you can make good judgment decisions for what you're doing with your microphones and everything else.
Cool. Thank you for that. Wow. I mean, I just kind of there's another rabbit hole I want to go down about monitors. We'll do it another time. But one thing we are doing is, if you notice my pint glass.
Wow, it's almost low.
See what it says on the front?
Yeah, see, I'm so glad we had this time.
Yeah, right. But do you see what it says on the front?
No, I can't see it. What does it say? It
says Royer. It's got a Royer logo on there.
Wow.
And we are doing a giveaway of a Royer pint glass.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And if you don't have one, then
I don't.
I'm sorry that your life is just not what I thought it was.
I am completely incomplete.
Of course, you've got Just Push Play on the wall behind you is a
true.
platinum record. So
both this, there you go. Everything is reversed. So there, I got it. These two here, both done with Royer microphones.
Nice. That's right? Just Push Play. What was the other one?
This is Rush, Clockwork Angels.
Oh, wow. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And
cheers.
And we're having a giveaway. So let's see. You see the Royer logo on there now, sort of?
Yeah, it's a little lower. Raise it up a bit and go. There you go.
There you go. I'm trying to get it out of the light there. So, but do we have a winner? Amalia is in Royer's office and has been the person technically putting and keeping this whole thing together and going. We would not be doing this without her. So Amalia, thank you.
She's using my no beard plug-in right now, and just to hide my actually gaping beard that I have.
Well, it was actually either use the no beard or use the ZZ Top plug-in. You would look great with that.
All right, we do have a winner, and the winner is, drum roll please, Peter Cordoba. Peter Cordoba, you are the lucky winner.
All right, Peter. Peter, congratulations. Enjoy your Royer pint mug. And thanks for being with us. And thanks to everybody else for being with us. And Richard, thank you, man. It was so good to hang with you again. We haven't seen each other since COVID hit. And this has sort of been a nice virtual get together. We were talking for about 15 minutes before this got started. And it's like, wow, I kind of miss hanging. So cheers. Thank you for being a part of this. You got anything
Cheers,
left there?
everybody. Mine, guess what? Mine's empty.
Aw, well, I'm going to join you in that emptiness.
Right? Cheers. Really great to see you. Really great to see you, John. And
Great to see you too,
everybody
Richard.
stay
Thank
safe.
you so much.
Everybody stay safe and, keep recording great music.
Keep at it. Believe in music. Thanks for doing this whole thing. I mean, we all missed being together at NAMM this year, but
Absolutely.
how nice to be able to at least do it virtually and sort of keep the spirit. And
there you go.
In hopes of getting back to it sometime very soon.
Perfect. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, man. You too. Cheers. See ya.